Let's go ahead and kick things off. Great to see all of you here today as you're kind of coming in and joining our discussion today. Most of you probably don't know me, but my name is John Ruggi. I joined the BlockSpaces team earlier this year, and I lead our marketing efforts here. Before we begin, just a quick reminder of why we're all here. So we're going to take a look at the Lightning Network and start to discuss how it can have an impact on businesses that transact in Bitcoin. So maybe you've heard of the Lightning Network, maybe you haven't. It's not actually covered in the mainstream media all that much, but it has the potential to make a real massive impact on the way Bitcoin transactions are made. So its usage is growing rapidly, and we and many others believe it has huge potential. So we're going to unpack that with you, and hopefully today you walk away with a better understanding of the Lightning Network and become a bit more savvy on how to take advantage of it. First introduction I want to make is the man that you really came to hear from today. It's not me, it's Derek Jennison. Derek is our Lightning integration specialist at BlockSpaces, and well, he would probably never tell you this himself. He is literally one of the top people in the world when it comes to knowledge and understanding of the Lightning Network. So we're very lucky to have him here today. Drew Thompson is here as my co-host. Drew
Hello.
is our technical product specialist at BlockSpaces. So when he's not working with our product team, he's out talking with customers, talking to businesses, to Bitcoin users, and really trying to get a better handle on how people are using Bitcoin in the real world today. And then finally, Dana Tate as our moderator. She is going to keep things on track today. She's going to work through any questions that you have and making sure they get answered. And I'll speak to the specifics of that in just a moment. So like I said, this is a new series for us. It's a new format. We think that you'll like it, but if you have feedback on how to make things better, you're welcome to drop that in the comments, or you can send me a note at john@blockspaces.com. So with that in mind, let's kick things off.
My name is Derek Jennison. I am part of the Lightning team here over at BlockSpaces, and I work on our Bitcoin invoicing and payments product, which uses the Lightning Network. And I first heard about Bitcoin all the way back in 2016, 2017, that first bull cycle, right? And I feel like everyone that gets into Bitcoin has some type of origin story, right? And mine was actually from investing like the macroeconomic side of, say, like Ray Dalio. And that kind of got me intrigued as far as, oh, this is Bitcoin. It's this fixed supply asset, right? It sounds a lot like gold or transferable types of money that have been discussed in the past. And then kind of follow up that with, I kind of got sucked into the Bitcoin, or got orange pilled in that era. And then several years later, I had a really fortunate event that happened to me where I had back surgery, and I couldn't do much or move as much. And I had a lot of free time on my hands. So I took every opportunity to learn about the Lightning Network that was just taken off. And a little shout out to PlebNet community out there. They're the ones that kind of got me into the Lightning Network, got absorbed in it, and then eventually got picked up by BlockSpaces to help businesses be able to use the Lightning Network. So, and here we are.
We could probably go really, really deep or really technical today, but our goal for this session, at least, is to give everyone a good foundation for Lightning and make sure they've got a good place to start from. So maybe to help get us one step closer to that, can you give us your working definition of just what the Lightning Network is?
So Lightning Network is basically a protocol, you could call it, right? That allows you to send Bitcoin like cash. Like you can send it instantly, it's instantly transferable, instant settlement, and it allows you to scale payments using Bitcoin versus just using regular blockchain payments. I like to think of sending a normal Bitcoin transaction almost like sending a wire, like of money that could take 10 minutes to an hour, depending on the situation, versus Lightning is instant. And you can send small payments that way.
So let's unpack that a little bit further. So Lightning
Sure.
hasn't been around nearly as long as Bitcoin. So prior to Lightning, or just putting Lightning aside, just walk us through a little bit more detail in the mechanics and some of the kind of pros and cons of sending a transaction directly in Bitcoin and on the Bitcoin blockchain.
If I'm hearing you correctly, compare it to a regular Bitcoin transaction versus Lightning, right?
Yeah.
When you send a Bitcoin transaction, a lot of times that transaction takes time to send. You send it, it could take an hour or two before it gets fully confirmed. They say 6 blocks for confirmation. But the issue is that the blockchain only handles around 3 to 7 transactions per second. And if we're talking about a global payment system, 3 to 7 transactions per second is not going to handle a global payments asset, right? Like you think of Visa, I've heard anywhere from they can handle from 24,000 to 40,000 transactions per second. That's only Visa. And if we incorporate all the payment systems and you think of how many transactions per second are happening globally, the Bitcoin blockchain is very limited. It's not made for payments on a global scale, right? And that's where Lightning comes in. Imagine now you can send an infinite amount of transactions on Lightning theoretically, right? Without touching the Bitcoin blockchain after these communication channels are set up.
I think it's important to point out that some of those constraints you mentioned about Bitcoin, the throughput, the transaction times, those are not bugs or necessarily shortcomings. Those are intentional design decisions that were made for Bitcoin. Is that correct?
That is, you can't say any better.
There's a reason why there's that that time for a transaction to clear and for that block to be confirmed and all that. So there's that time piece, and there's also a cost component, a fee that's present with the Bitcoin transactions as well. Can you walk us through some of the details of that and why those fees can end up being quite high sometimes?
I talked about that the blockchain is very small, right? And the blocks within the blockchain can only hold so much data. If everyone sends a Bitcoin transaction on the blockchain, what happens is that that blockchain couldn't handle the size of all those transactions. So what happens is there's like what they call the mempool, or like these blocks. Let's say if I want my transaction to be confirmed on the blockchain itself, I'm willing to pay a fee to get it confirmed. And what happens is if I want my wire, remember I told you about it's almost like sending a wire, right? And I want it like to be sent in the next block, I'm willing to pay a higher fee than the next person beside me that's trying to get their transaction put in. So there's this fee market of everyone trying to get their transactions confirmed in the blockchain. Recently, just this week, Binance was consolidating a lot of their addresses. The amount of transactions are waiting to be confirmed is huge. So if you want your transaction to be confirmed, within the next hour or two in the blockchain, you're going to have to pay a hefty fee for that. And you never know what that fee is going to be because it's an open fee market. It can change tomorrow. It can change a week from now. We don't, you never know what the price range is until you actually go research it. So it could be from dollars to get a transaction verified. It can be $50. It could be any range of what that fee market is going in. Sometimes it can be very cheap as well. If not many people are sitting on the blockchain, you can send a very large sum of money for a very cheap fee. But the issue is time, right? You have to wait for it to get confirmed. And even if you submit that transaction, what happens if 100,000 people all of a sudden send transactions in, and now they're bumping your fee down to the bottom of the pool, right, to get confirmed? And then you might have to go higher in your fee to get ahead of them. So again, you never know how that fee market is going to go.
Lightning, as we kind of alluded to, it's designed to solve that those fees. It's designed to solve that settlement time. How does Lightning Network actually go about providing a payment mechanism that doesn't have the settlement time and that doesn't really have those high fees that a Bitcoin transaction might?
The way I like to think about Lightning, instant settlement is the key feature, right? So it's a value over time. Right. So if I want to pay at a store or anything else and I need instant settlement, I value that time for that transaction to go through instantly, right? Versus sending a wire. No one's going to wait an hour or 2 hours in a grocery store or anywhere else, right? The way the Lightning Network works is that it's like a messaging protocol. Let's say we have 4 boxes in this group chat right now. I see there are several people involved. There was Drew, Dana, and John here. And let's say we all have each other's phone numbers, right? And Lightning Network is like a messaging protocol where I can literally send you a text of Bitcoin and it goes to you and you receive it instantly. And we can send messages to one another or an unlimited amount of payments to one another without it ever touching the blockchain. Okay. And that's the reason why you can send Bitcoin instantly, very quickly throughout to one another without it touching the blockchain and having that restriction of the blockchain itself.
We may have people here who have never made a Bitcoin transaction before. So they may be wondering in the back of their heads, like, okay, so what's wrong with my US dollars that Lightning solves?
So you can kind of think of like how the US dollar is spent. So a lot of people use credit cards, debit cards, the financial rails of the system. And a lot of times they charge fees to use their services. So you could think of like what merchants are getting charged. You have the credit card payment rails. There's chargebacks. So there's no guarantee, right? What that transaction settlement. It takes time for those transactions to clear. So if I'm receiving US dollar with a credit card, it takes a while to receive that dollar into my actual bank account. And then I really don't have the control of which financial institution is seeing that US dollar come to me as well, right? When I send a Lightning payment, say to you, Drew, you were just talking, is that when I send it to you, that Bitcoin is instantly on your side. That means it's instant settlement. There's no chargebacks, right? And then two, it's like you don't have to worry about all those clearing houses, everyone in the middle trying to get their fee, all the middlemen that trying to get their cut on top of that. It's like you can be your own bank if you like.
One of the big reasons I asked is because, like, from a general consumer perspective, card companies like Chase or whoever, they sort of abstract away the problems with US dollar transactions, like when you make a debit card purchase and you look at your bank account and it reflects right away, right? But that's actually not what happens. That there's a lot of slow moving parts to the US dollar system. And so that's a really good way of putting the advantage of Lightning over US dollars. Absolutely. Especially as from a business owner perspective, right? You're dealing with a lot of fees, like you said.
We're talking about the US dollar, but a lot of people around the world don't have a choice of what currency they can pay with, right? Or the monetary policy controlling those currencies as well. So unfortunately, a lot of people around the world, are battling hyperinflation or those kind of things, right? And we know that the code of Bitcoin, because I'm downloaded this full blockchain on my computer. I have a vote in the system, and I know the monetary policy of Bitcoin, and it can't be changed because I'm running it, as well as thousands of computers around the world that also have a vote as well.
Just to clarify something you said, like when you see something that shows up on like a credit card statement or something from a bank, what they're showing you in those first few moments is kind of the end state that they're working towards, but there's really things that are happening behind the scenes. And in reality, that payment hasn't fully settled completely. It will get there. They're kind of abstracting that and kind of like moving it up in time to show you what you're expecting to happen. But in reality, that hasn't really worked its way through the system completely. Whereas Lightning, it truly is like when you see a payment come through on your Lightning wallet, it's there, it's irrevocable. Like there's no going back. That's as complete as it gets.
Absolutely. And then too, like if you're part of those institutions, certain businesses might have issues working with banks as well, right? And this is a way for businesses to receive real money, Bitcoin, right? But there's certain industries that we know that have had issues with banking before. So
digital free speech.
The concept is, instant settlement, very low fees. Let's talk about the user experience. So say I want to pay you, Derek, I want to pay you 100 sats in Lightning. Walk me through the process I would need to do and that you would need to do on your end to receive that payment.
So currently with the implementation that we have, I can literally just create an invoice, which is a QR code. It could also be like just a string of letters and numbers together, right? It could be a mobile wallet. There's different ways to pay with Lightning, but if I wanted to receive Lightning from you, John, I would create that QR code invoice. You just scan it from a Lightning wallet and it goes right through. It's almost the same as the NFC or like the Apple Pay, pointing your phone to a chip or something, right? And it converting a payment. It's just scanning a QR code, as simple as that.
So there's some constrictions, some constraints with Lightning. If I want to send you $1 million, not that I'm going to, but if I want to send you $1 million for great job today, or 1 Bitcoin, let's say, that's no problem to do it on the main Bitcoin blockchain. If I want to do that with Lightning, though, there's some constraints there. So walk us through what those constraints are and how to maybe get around some of those.
The issue is you got to think of like bandwidth, right? Like how big are those communication channels between me and you? and how much data can we send in those channels, right? The way I think about it is, John, for you to send me $1 million directly, you would have to open $1 million communication channel, at least that size to me, in order to send me $1 million, right? The issue now is, let's say you want to send it to someone else, but you don't have a direct communication channel to someone, but there's other people that can route that messaging for you, right? Like, so let's say like I have a communication to Drew, John, but John, you want to pay Drew, right? But you don't have a channel with Drew. So John, you would say, hey, Derek, I want to send you some Bitcoin, but can you route that to Drew for me, right? Now I have to have $1 million communication channel with Drew as well, just to format that. So it's the size of what we call liquidity within channels or communication channels to one another. And the issue is the graph of Lightning Network, all the people that are connected together, $1 million size channels could be an issue for payments to go through, or that communication to finally resolve, right? So the way I look about it is, if I was to send $1 million, do I need it instantly, or can I just send a wire? But if I want to send several $100s or even thousands of dollars, if I want it instantly, that can happen on Lightning. For sure.
I was just going to sort of clarify using the text messaging example that we did earlier, right? So let's do what we said earlier. We're like, I have a channel to you, you have a channel to John, but I want to text John hi. So that's 2 characters. So you would have to have at least 2 characters in your channel for me to use your node to text John hi, except we're just texting Bitcoin at this point.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's definitely more complex than what we're saying here, for sure.
Right. Just trying to bring it down to earth a little bit.
Right now, large payments, it's really tough for Lightning to handle. But the way I like to look at it is that the higher the price Bitcoin goes, then the more, as far as US dollar amounts, can be transacted on Lightning. So right now, we're going through a little bit of a low market. It'll go back up for sure. But the thing is that, let's say Bitcoin was $200,000 per Bitcoin. Now we're talking about payments in US dollars can flow very high amounts within Lightning pretty easily.
Can you give us kind of just a high level overview of what you're doing to manage liquidity and remove some of those constraints? Because there are businesses, we happen to be one of them, who are trying to help businesses and users use Lightning at scale, but it's not something that most people could really address themselves. So just kind of walk us through like how you get around some of those constraints.
Some of the hardest things on the Lightning Network is the ability to receive payments. Think if I'm a merchant and I'm selling product, whatever, and someone wants to pay me in Bitcoin via Lightning. It's not as simple as, oh, they just pay you and it goes through. You have to have someone that has one of those communication channels targeted towards you, first of all, to receive, so you can receive those messages. And not only that, if someone opens that communication channel to you, that means that they use their own Bitcoin to open a channel to you. So now you have to convince someone else to use their own capital to send those messages to you to route payments. It's not as simple as like, oh, here's my Lightning wallet, I created a QR invoice, pay me. It doesn't work like that. So there's a lot of complexities for businesses to not only receive, but also pay out of their Lightning wallet as well. And here at BlockSpaces, what we've created is kind of like a plug and play system, right? As a business, if I want to be able to receive Lightning or pay in Lightning, you really tap into the BlockSpaces system, and it's a hands-off approach that we facilitate so that businesses can start receiving or paying in Bitcoin via Lightning.
So really clear one, who's developing Lightning Network? It's not us, right? We didn't develop Lightning Network. Who's developing the protocol, this framework?
So right now we have things called like Core Lightning, which is one implementation from people from Blockstream and different organizations. Some of these devs are sponsored as well, meaning they're not like contracted by, well, they're under contract, but they're not really under like a corporation. Lightning Labs is another one that works on LND. LND is probably the largest implementation on Lightning right now. A lot of the stuff that happens on Lightning is grassroots, and PlebNet is definitely, PlebNet is an awesome Telegram community. They're also online, and they really, I think everyone in Lightning owes them a huge piece of gratitude, because without them, I'm not sure if we get to the level where Lightning is today. It's gotten Lightning to now where it's at enterprise level. And it's really awesome to see that not one company, right, took ownership of that, but it was, again, a system of people.
So yeah, so just to be super clear, if you're using Lightning, that's not a product from a specific company. It doesn't mean that you are putting your coins on an exchange. It's not necessarily within somebody else's custody. This isn't something that, again, it's not like a thing that one company owns and is put to market and you can pay to use. It's a protocol of which there are a few different implementations. So
exactly,
I like to be super clear on that because it's so easy to assume that this is just another Coinbase or an FTX or whoever, but it's truly different from that.
Absolutely. That's a great way of thinking about it. Like it's like BlockSpaces doesn't own Lightning Network. There's no business that owns Lightning Network. It's an open protocol that people can build on top of.
We talked about fees a bit in the beginning, and he would like to know who sets the fees and if the fees come from miners.
It depends if we're talking about like the regular blockchain versus also on Lightning, right? So there's two different fee structures here. And the blockchain, you do pay miners fees. On the Lightning Network, though, if you don't have a direct channel with someone, right? But I know how to send my payment to the endpoint, the last person, right? Or who I want to go to. But there's other people that might have to route your payments to get to that end person, right? They will charge you a fee to route your payment. And that's the incentive to route payments on the Lightning Network is you're routing other people's payments to get to their final destination, right? And that's how the fee structure works. The way I like to think about Lightning is that you want reliable transactions, right? For low fees. And that's what you're paying for practically.
Just to play devil's advocate. So if I send you a payment on Venmo or PayPal, the fees, at least in some respects, are minimal or zero, and that I get a confirmation pretty quickly. So how is that different? Why wouldn't I use that over saying using Lightning for a business?
So what you explained, the Venmos, PayPals, those applications, right, are what we call closed financial systems. Meaning, John, if you had like a PayPal account and I had a different cash account like Venmo or something else, a lot of times those applications can't send payments to one another. You are locked into their system, meaning you have to be a user of those systems to transact with one another. And that's what makes it closed. So if you're talking about like Venmo and PayPal, that could be just limited to the US, that could be just limited to Europe. I'm not sure where else that they're able to use those applications. But even in India, they have different like payment applications, right? The great thing about Bitcoin and the Lightning protocol, a Lightning invoice is a Lightning invoice, meaning no matter what application I use to send you that invoice to pay me, John, you can use any Lightning wallet, any Lightning that's using that Lightning protocol to send that payment. It's an open network. There's no closed financial networks in that instance. So if I'm in New Zealand or in Antarctica and I send you a Lightning invoice, you can be anywhere around the world using a Lightning application and send me that payment.
We're about out of time, so that hour flew by. If you guys aren't familiar with us at BlockSpaces, we build solutions that help businesses integrate with Bitcoin, with blockchain, with Web3 protocols. Like the Lightning Network. We actually just launched an integration with QuickBooks. It allows you to reconcile Bitcoin transactions directly in your accounting software without manual entry or opportunity for data error when you do that manual work. And it runs on the Lightning Network, of course. So it's instant settlement and low fees, like we talked about. So if that's something you'd like to learn about, you can find out more information at blockspaces.com. So that's it from our end. Derek, thanks again for being with us here. Drew and Dana, appreciate you guys and everyone who attended. It was great to see you all here, and hope this was helpful and informative. So like I mentioned earlier, we're planning to do these sessions every couple of weeks, so stay tuned for more updates on that, and we will see you next time. Thanks again.
Thanks, guys. Wish we had another hour. Appreciate it.